Alright, welcome to a new series. Today we're going to be looking at the Dodo of this new series of dinosaur ranking and add-on additions. Basically coming up with new ideas for if you were going to make a dino game. We're also going to be looking at mostly Ark Survival Ascended, the new version of Ark Survival. As a game designer, I want to make games in the future. I've been working on a game called Dino World that is very similar to Ark Survival Evolved and Ascended, so we're going to be looking at that as well. But let's first get into what the Dodo is and go over just some basics before we get into what we want to accomplish in this video. So the schedule for this video is I'm going to introduce the Ark Survival Dodo, talk about the difference between Evolved and Ascended. I'm also going to be going over tips and tricks for what to use, why the Dodo is an important member of the lineup, and why it's crucial to any dinosaur game, obviously. And then we're going to talk about some potential add-ons, ways to improve the Dodo in Ark Survival Ascended and as well as Evolved. And then we're going to be talking about my game Dino World and what the Dodo would fulfill as well as roles and utilities are concerned. So let's get into it. So looking at the Dodo from Ark Survival Ascended, its description, obviously Kingdom Animalia, it's an animal, group bird, and description is a flightless bird. It has feathers, but it is flightless. Traits, flightless, cannot fly, kind of makes sense. It's a herbivore, it only eats berries and seeds. It doesn't eat it's not like a normal bird. Most birds are omnivores because they'll eat either insects and berries or a combination of the two. Some bigger birds will eat rodents and some birds will even eat snakes. But the Dodo was herbivorous, so it only ate berries and seeds. And it laid eggs frequently, so it was kind of like a prehistoric chicken for the most part. So looking at the Ark Survival Ascended stats of the Dodo, it had 40 health points, stamina 100, oxygen 150. Stamina means how much action it can perform before it gets tired. Food and water, how much food it can store in its belly and how much water it can drink. Weight 50, how much it can carry. Melee 5 damage. Its base speed was 0.65 meters per second because Ark it goes off the metric system, so it's meters per second, and its swimming speed was 3 meters per second. So it could swim faster than it ran, which is kind of rare. Most dinosaurs swim slower, but the Dodo is a bird, so it knows how to swim a little bit better. It's like a duck-chicken hybrid. But anyway. So when Ark Survival Evolved came out in 2017, Ark Survival Ascended is the new version of Ark, and it did update what the dinosaurs look like. So Ark Survival Evolved Dodo is the one right here on the left, and then Ark Survival Ascended is the new look for the Dodo. I actually think the Ark Survival Evolved Dodo looks better, but that's just my personal preference. Comment down below if you have any other preference about it. So now to go into the tips and tricks, utilities and roles of the Dodo. So first, it lays eggs while pooping if mated. So if you have two tamed mated Dodos, it will lay eggs when pooping. So every time it poops, it'll also lay eggs because it lays eggs. Pretty much is the Ark Survival egg machine. It just keeps laying eggs. It will lay eggs constantly. The most often of any tame. So obviously if you want an oviraptor, best to have a bunch of Dodos because oviraptors eat eggs. 2, easy early game meat and hide. Obviously Dodos spawn on the beach. If you spawn on the beach or anywhere in the map, you'll find a Dodo and you can easily use it to get meat and hide because it's easy to kill. 3, easiest tamed sacrifice for taming Troodons. Obviously you know that if you want to tame a Troodon, you have to have something tamed and then the Troodon eats it to become tamed. So obviously just sacrifice a Dodo. Easy tame sacrifice for a Troodon because, I mean, Troodons are awesome, but they do need to eat something that you have tamed. So of course, it is pretty easy to just tame a bunch of Dodos and then sacrifice them to tame some Troodons. Number 4, tamed using normal methods, so you don't have to do anything crazy. You can just bat it over the head with a club. You can also use trank arrows or trank darts. I would just use trank arrows because no reason why you should use a trank dart or a shocking tranquilizer dart on a Dodo. Just use an arrow or just club it and it'll be tamed. And then number 5, use as target practice for DPS weapons. So if you want to test out how good you are at shooting things from far away, just place your Dodo very far away and then try to hit it with your rifle. And see if you actually are pretty good at firing a gun. So now we've done the tips. The tricks are, since they trigger traps, use them to test trigger traps and alarm systems. If you want to test your alarm system for your base, use a Dodo. Because that's pretty obvious. You can, since they're the easiest tame, obviously you can tame a bunch of them and just use them to test your alarm systems and to trigger traps. If your enemy is has like a minefield or has like hidden turrets and traps, I mean, just send a Dodo in there and just trigger all the traps, because like it's just an easy tame. You can literally just replace it if you want to. Number 2, to distract carnivores to tame them up close. So some carnivores, if you do send a Dodo, they'll attack the Dodo and chase it around. That'll give you some ample time to start hitting the carnivore with trank arrows or trank darts. That may give you some extra time to tame the creature if you're not going to use a bear trap or a dinosaur gateway. Number 3, turrets can target Dodos, so you can use them to see how far the range and line of sight is of a turret. If the turret can see the Dodo, if you place a turret, you can see how far the turret's range is, and you can see if the turret can see you in a certain area by placing the Dodo and seeing if the turret targets the Dodo. Number 4, infecting it with a disease and placing it in a player's base as a bioweapon. If a Dodo is infected with a disease and you place it inside a player's base, it can infect the player's tame dinosaurs, infect their crops. You know how it does. So it's kind of basically like a bioweapon. Sorry, I got a call from someone. I don't know who this call is. Sorry, number 5. Placing a Dodo on aggressive and to walk around your base as a means of good alarm, because it will target an enemy creature entering the base. So let's say you have a base and you set your Dodo on aggressive, so of course if it sees something it will attack it, and you set it on wander. So it's wander. If you set a bunch of Dodos to wander around your base, if an enemy tries to sneak in with a creature, your Dodos will start attacking that creature, and of course if it attacks the creature, the enemy creature will attack in turn and usually make a sound when it does it. So you'll be like, oh, someone's killing my Dodos over there. Now I know that they're killing them, and now I know someone's in my base. Number 6, C4s can be placed on a Dodo and detonated, so Dodos can be used as either bioweapons or suicide bombers. You know, the classic stuff. Number 7, Dodos set on wander can harvest seeds from plants. So if you set them on wander and you send them on their way, they can go through bushes and harvest seeds from bushes and other foliage. So pretty useful for passive resource gaining. So potential add-ons for the game. If we wanted to make Arc Ascended Dodos a little bit more, if you wanted to add additional qualities, we could, number 1, if a player holds a Dodo, because a player can hold a Dodo in its hands, it will flap its wings when they fall, giving the player a slow fall. So let's say you accidentally walk off a cliff, you just hold your Dodo in your hand, and they flap their wings. Obviously they can't fly, but at least they'll slow your fall, and you won't take fall damage. I think it's a pretty good slow falling element, and it kind of makes the Dodos the water bucket of Ark Survival Ascended. Number 2, if set on wander in a farm, their poop fertilizes crops and they passively harvest crops, because they passively harvest berries from foliage. It would kind of make sense that they could also passively harvest crops if they're walking around. So they can poop to fertilize the crops, and obviously they can passively harvest crops because they can already passively harvest berries and seeds. And then number 3, feeding a tame Dodo seeds increases the fertility of their poops as fertilizer and increases their likelihood to lay eggs. They already lay eggs the most often, but if you feed a tame Dodo seeds instead of berries, since they like seeds more than berries, it makes their poops more effective and it makes them more likely to lay eggs. Just a little bit of diversity can go a long way. Alright, now let's talk about my game. So I'm trying to design a game that's similar to Ark called Dino World, and I wanted to just talk about what you could do if you're making a new game and what you would do with a Dodo. So first, I have 3 types of Dodos that I would say that you could start off with. Number 1, normal dodo found on beaches and islands. I think the beaches and islands biomes are perfect for dodos. Mutated dodos. Dodos with genetic mutations when produced by 2 tame parents using a gene moderator. So in ARK, if you can use a gene computer to edit the genome of a creature to give it a genetic mutation, giving it an extra skill. So that's what a mutated dodo would look like. And the image on the left shows a regular dodo and then a mutated dodo with a little bit of a different color scheme. And then we have dead dodo, a carcass of a dodo that died of natural and environmental causes. You know, just a dead carcass that you can harvest for meat and hide. Alright, so if we look at the Dino World stats for a dodo, I've increased the health slightly to 50, stamina, oxygen, same, food and water, a little bit lower, weight, a little bit lower, melee, speed, I've made the speed a little bit better, and then swimming speed, and also fortitude. Fortitude is a thing that we'll get into when we get to the bigger dinosaurs, because it's like resistance to being knocked back, but obviously a dodo has 0 because it's super small. Like I can kick it and it would literally just get knocked back. And that's those red numbers show what the stats were for ARK Survival Ascended, so you can see health's a little bit more, food and water's a little bit less, weight's a little bit less, and speed is a little bit more. Additional traits for Dino World that I think should be added to make my game more unique than ARK. Dodo taming is passive by feeding a wild dodo seeds. So instead of using trank darts, you can just feed a dodo seeds and it tames that way, so you don't have to abuse it with a club, you know, just making it a little bit more efficient. I mean, dodos are already the easiest tame, just make them a little bit easier. And then number 2, wild dodos have a chance of carrying chickenpox and giving it to players. I think adding a new disease is kind of interesting and a little bit, you know, makes it a little bit harder. So like there's a risk for wild dodos, but you know, I just think it should make it a little bit more unique, because I think diseases are a thing that should be in survival games, and I think that the more diseases, the more interesting things you have in the wild, such as diseases and environmental disasters, the more diverse your game is. And then we have Dino World spawns. We have the main map Europa, and spawn rates are in different colors. Blue is guaranteed to spawn there. Green, very likely to spawn there. Yellow, few, not a lot of dinos spawn there or likely to spawn. Orange is rare to spawn. Red is very rare, and then purple is dead. So they like, just like in ARK Survival Ascended, if you find like Balosaurus, dead Balosaurus, because they washed up on the beach, you can still harvest them, but you know they're dead, you know. So like I said before, I think that it'd be good for dodos to be spawning on beaches and islands, mostly because it makes sense to just see them on the beach. It doesn't really make sense to see like a dodo walking around a volcano or in the desert. I think it just makes sense to see them either on an island or on the beach. So I have the outline here of the beach and the island down here as well, and shows blue for the jungle beaches and then blue for the island, so it's guaranteed to spawn on the beaches. And then we have on this little Great Plains area here, these plains beaches, I have it green, so it's not guaranteed but still very likely to spawn because it's a dodo. It's like the most spawnable creature. Alright, and I think that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like if you like, dislike if you don't, subscribe if you like it, and I will see you guys in the next video when we talk about another creature. Thank you, have a blessed day, and of course, as always, toodaloo!